In the winter of 1823, in a quiet English hamlet bordered by willow trees and winding hedgerows, there lived a young woman named Eliza Harrow. She was the daughter of a modest apothecary and known in the village for her love of the early morning hours, those fleeting, silvery moments before the sun had touched the earth. One still, bitterly cold morning, Eliza awoke before the bell at St. Anne's Chapel had rung. The fire had long since died in the hearth, and her breath curled in the air like ghostly lace. She wrapped herself in her father's woolen cloak and stepped out into the countryside, drawn by a stillness that felt enchanted. And so it was. The hedgerows glistened not with ordinary frost, but with a delicate and rare wonder, hoar frost. It cloaked the land in fine white filaments, long and feathery, as though the very air had grown old and wise overnight. Twigs of birch and willow wore ice like woven silver, and the ground crunched beneath her boots with a sound like sugar underfoot. Eliza stopped near the edge of the wood, where the frost was thickest. She reached out her hand to touch one of the crystal needles, and heard a quiet voice behind her. "You'll break its spell if you touch it." She turned. A man stood there, about her age, with a satchel of brushes and a folded easel at his side. He was not from the village. She would have remembered eyes so kind, and a smile so warm. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said. He laughed gently. "No intrusion at all. I'm Edmund Hale. I travel to paint the frost when it's like this. It doesn't happen often." She looked at his gear. "You paint ice." "Only when it's poetry," he said. "And this morning, it certainly is." They walked together, speaking softly, the hush of the frozen morning too sacred to break with loud words. He told her about the science behind the frost, how the water vapor crystallized instantly on the cold branches, forming icy hairs that grew like whispers from the bark. She listened, enchanted not just by the lesson, but by the quiet reverence with which he spoke. "See that one," he said, pointing to a slender birch. "It's grown almost 2 inches since dawn. The longer the silence, the longer they grow." "I'll try not to speak, then," she whispered with a smile. By the time the sun crested the hills, they had walked for nearly an hour. The frost began to melt in slow rivulets. The branches wept, and the spell was undone. Edmund turned to her. "If I return tomorrow, may I walk with you again?" Eliza nodded. "Only if we speak softly enough to keep the frost growing." He smiled. "Then I'll be silent all morning, if it means staying beside you." And so it was that in the heart of winter, amidst white-bearded twigs and frozen hedgerows, a quiet love began to bloom, fragile, fleeting, and more beautiful than even the rarest of frosts.